Okay, so Woogie's talked a little bit about stand-up paddle technique and sort of brushed on hip flexion, hip extension, and I'm just gonna expand on that a little tiny bit before we move on to the specific sort of mobility and a couple of strengthening ideas for you guys to start playing around with before we get into some of the media stuff. First of all, I've got my beautiful assistant here. I just need an anatomical model. So I'm going to get Wook to stand by the side. Now, real quick, I'm going to use this stick as a reference point. This is what we call, it doesn't matter what it's called, really, like you're not going to be testing on this. But this is what we call the frontal plane. It's a plane that divides the body up into equal parts front and back, so sort of 50-50 split between the two. Now, hip flexion, I'm talking about movement specifically at the hip, everything else remaining the same. Hip flexion is when a leaning forward, there we go, a changing and a creation of an angle between the thigh and the torso, even further forward, let's go all the way back like this there. Cool, so that's my angle. This is the angle that's created between torso and thigh, sorry, that's hip flexion. If I'm talking about hip extension, I'm talking about opening that angle back up, so come back into standing for me, boom, coming back, so we have that 50-50 split front and back in the frontal plane. So here again, hip flexion is bend, hip extension is opening the hips up to this full open position. Hip hyperextension is pushing the hips through beyond that normal range of a fully open angle. Now, in terms of areas that get injured in the stand-up world, we tend to see a lot of low back stuff, and we tend to see a lot of hip flexor stuff, and it's basically one of the same injury. If I can just get a little bit of snugness happening around Wook, you'll see that he's got what we in the strength and conditioning world called gorilla butt. So he's got this kind of tight hip pattern here, so already his hips are tilted forward, so his hip flexors are really kind of pulling on the front of his pelvis, and that's making his butt stick out. It's also putting a whole bunch of shear through the bottom of his spine that he doesn't necessarily need. Okay? So it's my contention that I'm going to try and level the hips up, coming back into a sort of a neutral pelvis position, which puts you back into a standard sort of neutral S position with your spine, and it takes a lot of pressure off the hip flexor. So if I can stretch this area out, I should be able to get hips to sit level and hopefully reduce some back stuff as well. Okay? Cool. Thanks. Right. So I'm going to go first off attacking the hip flexor, and this can be anything. I've got a bench and a little pad here. You can drop this in the back of the sofa. I think the first time I saw it come to light was a Kelly Starr, I think, and he actually calls it the sofa stretch. So it works really, really well. Dropping your knee way down. So imagine this is the back of the sofa, this is the seated area, this is the high pad, the high back. I'm trying to close my heel to my butt. A good range of motion about the knee would be heel and bum together. So that kind of closed position, that's putting a really quite strong stretch all the way along the front of the thigh, all the way up into the hip flexor right there. So this is how we attack it, because not many people are going to start out with that range. This is probably going to be stretching for you already with that distance there. So I'm going to go 90 degrees with my front knee, so I can put some backwards force against the other foot. This is my driving leg. I'm going to put a stretch on, but instead of letting my hips tilt back, when we just saw the gorilla butt with Wook, I'm going to tuck my butt under, tuck my pelvis all the way under, and immediately that's starting to load the front of my thigh up quite aggressively. So I'm keeping that tucked under. I'm going to press back using this front leg, and I'm going to hold for about 5 or 10 seconds at that position. And then I'm going to press back, I'm going to relax this muscle, I'm going to relax, put a little bit more tension on, okay? And it works like this. This back foot presses forward, this front foot presses back. So when I say tense or contract, I'm going to create an impasse, basically an isometric hold where I'm pushing off the front leg, squeezing from the back leg, and I'm going to contract for a good strong 5 seconds. Then I'm going to relax, and I'm going to relax that muscle, relax that back foot, and put a little bit more stretch on. So I should be able to sneak a little bit more range each time. Then I contract again. Let's contract hard, squeeze in, pressing from this leg this leg is burning hard. Then I relax this back leg off. And I should be able to again squeeze a little bit more range in. I'm going to do that 5, 6, 7 times until I can get a good solid range where I can get my heel to touch my butt. And I'm going to do that on both legs. Should take about 2 minutes aside, something along those lines. So that's to loosen up quad and hip flexor. All that thing is the same piece of muscle, same piece of tissue. So if I can stretch that out, I am effectively stretching this thing out as well. Okay? Right, so from there, I'm going to take this ball. So we should, we're halfway towards getting a little kit together now. We talked, I can't remember whether it was 2 or 3, about getting yourself a good solid stretchy band, a good solid hockey ball or massage ball. Like these are available from Australian kettlebells, kettlebells.com.au. This is the ball I'm going to use, and I'm going to try and loosen up some of the stuff in the back here in the glutes, and specifically the short rotators of the hip. And it doesn't matter what they're called, so I'm not going to go in depth with that. But what I am going to show you is a great way of just using this to loosen up. So I'm going to put the ball on the floor, and I'll show you first. I'm basically looking for any area that's going to be, if you can feel where the finger attaches into the pelvis, you get that bony part, that kind of round bony part. Anything back on the side of the glute before you get really into the tough, sort of the meaty part right on the back. So that kind of side section there is fair game. That's what I'm looking for, that kind of that big circle. So behind the bony bit, in a few centimetres or in 2 inches, that big circle, a soft side part, a soft side tissue is where I'm going to attack. Put the ball down on the floor. I'm going to set up. I pop in the ball into the right spot first. I'm going to take my heel, cross it over my knee. I'm going to tilt my body to the side so I can really work into those muscles. Now they're put on stretch, now they're in external rotation. I'm going to let my body weight sink down into it, and you're going to find there's all sorts of areas in there that are agony to the touch. If you find something that needs some attention, you need to stop, pause on it, put a little bit of gentle pressure on. You're going to take 5 big breaths. You try and relax, release, and until that pain sensation, that real strong pain sensation starts to subside, you should relax off a little bit. When it does, you're going to move over a little bit, and again, you're going to find something very, very soon that needs a bit more attention. Again, pause, relax. Give yourself 5 good strong breaths until that starts to release and work on. That's going to take you a good few minutes to be able to work on both sides. I'd say 2-3 minutes a side is going to give you plenty of stuff there. Right. The last thing with the band. So we've been using it predominantly for stretching so far. I want to do a little hip extension thing, which is kind of to, I guess, set you up for some of the more aggressive weightlifting stuff that we use in CrossFit and all the powerlifting and Olympic lifting stuff. So guys, I'm going to set myself up with my feet in the band, about shoulder width apart, so obviously wider than the hips as I'm looking down at my feet. So this would be sort of hip width, standing up straight. I'm going to go obviously wider than that. And just stop around to one side. From there, I'm going to lean down, pop my neck in underneath the band. So it's going to create a strong triangle of band tension there. Okay, so I'm going to flex at the hips and use it as a hip flexion, hip extension movement to strengthen up hips and glutes. From here, I'm trying to keep the band as vertical as possible. Push my butt back. My hamstrings are on stretch. I'm trying to keep my weight really far back biased so my toes are almost floating. I'm going to come down as far as I can, maintaining a neutral spine, and then squeeze up to standing. So I push my hips back. Balancing back on my heels, come down to close to horizontal. That is screaming in the back of my legs and my hamstrings right now. And I squeeze my butt, I come on to standing. Push hips back. At that point, I'm trying to keep the band as close to vertical as possible, as opposed to here. I'm way back here. Wait. I'm going to squeeze up to standing. So I'll give you 2 at speed. this man, just take it all the way down, and that's it off, pop the band on the floor. We talk about this as a general conditioner for some of the more aggressive stuff. Really what I need to be doing for maximum hip extension power is any of the Olympic weightlifting movements, clean and jerk, the snatch. We're talking about deadlifting, we're talking about heavy back squats, heavy front squats, and they're really movements that are very, very nuanced and can potentially be dangerous if you don't have specific coaching. If you do have a CrossFit gym close by to you, by all means get in touch with those guys and get some eyes-on coaching. The best way to learn is getting that instant feedback that only a coach can give. Woogie and I are probably going to do some seminars in terms of combining some strength and conditioning and some stand-up paddle stuff. We're going to do that real soon, and also we're going to go online with a video resource where you guys can, I guess, film yourself either paddle technique or the lifting technique. We should be able to give you guys online feedback from that, and that's going to happen pretty soon, hopefully. Is that right, Will? You. Right, okay, that's it. I'm done. Thanks.